Welcome to episode 7 of the JamieCloughGaming podcast. In episode 7 of the JamieCloughGaming podcast, we will be discussing the new Charlie's Angels film. Now, let me start off by saying I like action movies. Action movies are my favourite kind of movies. James Bond, massive fan. And I especially like action movies that have strong female characters, you know. That said, I had no idea that there was a new Charlie's Angels film this year. And it had been a long time since the last one. I don't think many people were actually expecting a new Charlie's Angels film after all this time either. So the fact that people weren't actually expecting a new film, and possibly the lack of advertising, and you can begin to see where the problems with this new film originate from. Indeed, but you hear a lot of this agenda stuff being touted as the reason the film was a flop, which, well, it may be partially something to do with it, but I mainly think it was a lack of advertising. They didn't promote their product properly, and they had a small budget to do that, and if you don't get the message out, get views when things first come out, then that's what helps things become a flop in the first place, really. But some may disagree with it. As for the sexism aspect, the director did say that the film was an action film for girls, not men. Now, you can see where this may have caused the problem, because some people may expect a film starring women to be for women, but that discounts that anyone can enjoy any film, no matter which sex it stars. So this can be quite a problematic approach, but while that may have generated bad press, I still think the main problem was the lack of advertising and the lack of anything spectacular within the advertising itself, really, such as anything that made it stand out from any other generic action movie, really. So so we've covered that there wasn't much in the advertising. We've covered the sexism aspect. Now I'd like to cover another one of the reasons that I think this movie failed. Now, I think one of the primary reasons was because it was directed by Elizabeth Banks, who is an actress. Not only is she not a director per se, she's not a well-known director. She's an obscure director. Now, if you're going to have a brand as big as this being directed by somebody who is unknown, then you might start to have one or two problems with the fact that nobody has ever heard of her, and I'd say that's a major factor in the failure, frankly. Another hugely important area where this new movie falls completely flat is the lack of A-list talent, frankly. I mean, I've never heard of the vast majority of people that are in this film, apart from Kirsten Stewart and Patrick Stewart, of course. But two of the three angels are practically completely unheard of. Ella Balanska and Naomi Scott, that's it, Naomi Scott. I'd never heard of either of those actresses, and that's kind of going to be a big problem when they're two of the three big stars of the movie. The final area where the new film falls completely flat is the lack of any inspiring soundtracks to go with it, especially when you listen to the main theme, the Ariana Grande track. Don't Call Me an Angel. It's frankly an appalling pile of garbage, really. I mean, the chemistry between her and the other two is very forced. So, you know, it was bound to fail overall when you consider all of these factors, and to say the least, the theme is at best mediocre. So, So to sum up, the areas where this film failed us: advertising, directing, casting, and soundtrack. Fantastic. So, and the original films had their failures, and they were not great films. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? They weren't the best films ever, but they had advertising down, they had casting down, plenty of strong A-list actors in the first two films, and they had well-known director and proper soundtrack. At least the first film did anyway, but even though the second film was quite a bad film, it still had the A-list talents and the advertising, so it still did okay. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the new Charlie's Angels film. Oh dear. And I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the podcast.